So now that we have our game loop working from the previous video, and if you didn't see the previous video, go ahead and watch the previous two videos that I already have up there. We've created our game loop and we set up the interface here. Now we could go in here and add ourselves a rectangle, drag it out here and start using that. But the problem with that is that if you ever want to upgrade the game, if you ever want to use different levels, it's going to be a little bit more difficult when you have something on the screen doing that. You want to do this in code. So this, and plus it helps us learn how to code as opposed to simply going through the interface. So we're going to go in the code behind and we're going to go ahead and start drawing out our paddle. And so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create myself a paddle. Actually, I'm going to create a procedure. Draw paddle. Open and close, hit enter, and it'll automatically close that up for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and start writing out the properties of the paddle. The only thing I want to make sure though is that I put the rectangle itself up here in an area that I'm going to put all the rectangle stuff. So I have my game loop thing there, and I'm going to dim my rectangle here. So I have that rectangle there. Now I can go ahead and use this inside of this procedure. So I'm going to say this rectangle, I can start saying how it's going to look. So I'm going to say this rectangle dot fill equals brushes. And I'm going to give that a light blue. Okay. There we go. And then I'm going to say the stroke. So, and that's going to equal black. So say brushes. And I'm going to do this a little bit different. So instead of keep typing paddle, I'm going to use something called a with statement in VB. With. So it's with paddle, and then I'm going to have an end with at the bottom. Now all I have to do is inside of here just hit dot, and it basically means dot fill, paddle dot fill, paddle dot stroke. So I'm just going to use that instead of the other ones. And I'm going to go ahead and type this out so that way we don't waste too much time you watching me type. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to type this out and I'm going to come back. So what I have here is everything we started off with, the paddle, all the information with the paddle. Now I'm expecting people to go ahead and pause the video, you know, so they can go ahead and have a chance to type this out and then come back for the explanation if you're not familiar with the code. So right here I go ahead and set all the paddle information that I need here. And this render transform here, I created this paddle translate. So you're going to look up here and here are all the new parameters that I've added. I have a paddle buffer, the paddle itself, the paddle distance from the bottom of the paddle. Okay, so that's going to be 50. Center of the paddle. We need to know where the center of the paddle is for later on when we have to direct the ball, the paddle speed, paddle translate. So then down here what we did was we went ahead and added the render transform of the paddle to that paddle translate that we created up here, and we gave it 0, 0. So it's always going to start at this one's going to start at 0, 0. Okay, so if I let it start at 0, 0 without this part down here, and then I add it to the main canvas. So now what I need to do is go ahead and in order to see this run inside of my game, I'm going to go ahead and take this draw paddle procedure, and I'm going to start this right off the bat, right after or right before I start my game loop. I'm going to go ahead and draw my paddle. So I'm going to go up here and draw my paddle. So now I can go ahead and see what that looks like when I run it. You see the paddle all up here at the top. So what I need to do is I need to subtract the length of this window. So the height of the window. So it goes all the way down. Then I need to go halfway across the window. So it goes across halfway. And basically that's what we're doing here. When we take the translate X and we go to width and the width of the paddle, we have to subtract the width of the paddle here and the height of the paddle down here on the Y. Now, if you run it at this point, you're going to find that it won't work because really what it's looking for is looking for this main canvas width, this main canvas height. And a lot of people run into this issue. It's looking for this, but this isn't really set until we actually set it. So what you'll have to do is you have to go to your canvas and you have to go down here into the canvas component, and then you have to set your height and your width manually. And basically all you need to do is take the height and the width of the window and just paste that into the height and the width of the main canvas. So you see the main canvas here right next to the name. I put my height and width. After I do that, I can run it and then everything will work fine. So let's go ahead and get our paddle moving. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we're going to create some variables that will determine whether anything has moved or not. And because I'm dealing with left and right for the paddle, I'm going to put that up here near my paddle variables. And I'm going to name those move left and move right. So I have this move left variable, which is a Boolean, and my move right variable. Whenever those are true, that means that's exactly what I'm doing. So then we're going to go down here, right underneath the draw paddle. We're going to go ahead and create our move procedure for our paddle, and then we're going to later on create our ball and do the same thing with the ball. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and come back. So now as we see in this code here, that the move paddle procedure will run and it will check to see if move left is true, then this will happen, meaning the paddle translate X will be equal to paddle translate X minus the paddle speed, which when we go up here we see the paddle speed is 5. If you change that speed, the paddle goes faster, and right will just be the same thing except opposite. Now when we're done with all of this paddle translate here and adding or subtracting the speed, we take this paddle translate, which remember we put it over here to the render transform. We take this paddle translate and then we give it to the render transform of the paddle itself, and that's what we do here, and that's what's going to make it move. See, we put the numbers into this variable, then we take that variable and then we put it inside of the render transform for the paddle. Now all we need to do is go ahead and set up the actual functionality of how that's going to work, you know, like with the keystrokes. And we want our key down to be on the window itself, not necessarily on the canvas. So we're going to go here to the window, and then we're going to go ahead and click on not the canvas here, but the window part here. You can click it down here too, but I'll just click the very top gray part. Then I'm going to come over here to the properties. I'm going to click on this event handlers button. And then I'm going to go over here to the key down right here. Now I'm going to double click on that key down. And this is where I'm going to add all of my code for when the key is pressed. And we're going to do this inside of a select case statement. And again, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. So here we have our key movements, and I made it to where it's AWSD. So A is left, and then D would be right. And as you can see here, these are just tests, right? So really you can kind of mark those out. And then you can see how it makes move left true here, and then move right true here. And I just did these here just so you can kind of see, look, you can use those keys too for up and down if you want. I also did the escape key, so I don't have to keep on hitting the X on my window to close it. I can just hit the escape key, and then my program will shut down. So let's see if this works. First, we have to initialize this move paddle. And basically, I want to go ahead and initialize that at the very top. So I'm going to want that here at the very top of my update game loop. So I'm going to take this procedure and I'm going to put it right here in my update loop. So that way it's constantly checking the movement and the status of those variables here, the move right and move left. So let's see if that works. I'm going to hit run. So now when we run, if I hit left, you'll notice that I hit left and it just kept on going. So, and I'm going to hit my escape key to see what happened. But the reason for that is because it doesn't know what to do once the key is released. So for right now, once you hit it once, it'll start going. And if you hit it again, it's going to stop because now it's caught in between left and right being true. So it's actually working exactly like what it's supposed to be because left is true and right is true because I hit both of those keys. So now what we need to do in order to make this work properly, we need to program the key up. So just like we did the key down, I'm going to go here inside this window at the top, and then I'm going to go down here to the key up. I'm going to double click on the key up and I'm going to program the key up. The key up is exactly the same as the key down. It's just all the concepts are reversed. So let me pause this. So as you see here, I have my key up and key down. Okay. So I have my key up and my key down. Now when it's down, it's true. And when it's up, it's false. So now it should work perfectly. So now I can move left and right. Good. Now we have our paddle moving left and right. So now that we have that, now we can start focusing on maybe the ball. This is complete. We're pretty much done with this for now. And you know, there's things we could do to where we can make it where it can't go beyond the borders. But for right now, this is good. So I'll see you guys in the next video.